There's something stirring, Scorpio. And no, this isn't just your intuition playing tricks on you again. This time it's real. Someone is moving toward you. Not slowly, not casually. They're preparing something, quietly, carefully, like a storm that's been waiting for the right season. And you feel it, don't you? It's in the way your dreams have shifted, the way your heart jolts when a name crosses your mind for no reason, the way your soul pauses listening because it knows someone is trying to find their way back. This isn't just another lover's whisper in the dark. This is deeper than love. It's a bond forged somewhere far beyond this lifetime. And they, whoever they are, they can't escape you. And maybe you can't escape them either. Because what's coming next, it isn't coincidence, it's cosmic choreography. And the steps have already begun. So sit with me for a moment, Scorpio. Let everything around you quiet down, even the thoughts you can't silence. Because what I'm about to reveal could change everything. They are coming, and they will stop at nothing. Part 1, the pull you can't explain. And the reunion they're already planning in silence. Scorpio, how do you explain a bond that never leaves you? It's not a thought, not a memory. It's a frequency, a presence, something that breathes just beneath your skin, whether you're alone, busy, or pretending you've moved on, and it's getting stronger. This isn't just about love. It's not even about closure. This is about unfinished soul business. And here's the truth. Someone is being pulled toward you again, not because they miss you casually, but because your energy is haunting them. They can't sleep like they used to. They can't date like they used to. Something in them has shifted, and the shift is you. At first, they didn't understand it. They chalked it up to nostalgia, to dreams, but it didn't stop. They feel you even when they don't want to, and in secret, in absolute silence, they've started planning how to return. But why now? Because Scorpio, something cosmic has realigned. And deep within you, even if you can't explain it, you've felt it too. There's this inner knowing, a buzz that won't go away. Like you're waiting for a message without knowing what it is. Like your heart is listening to a knock that hasn't reached the door yet. This is no coincidence. The universe has cracked something open, a doorway, a timeline, and now you're standing in the middle of it, one foot in your past, one in the future. But let me tell you what they feel. They're scared, not of you, no, of what you awaken in them. You see, Scorpio, you're not just a person to them. You are a mirror, a trigger, a test. You are the one who saw them completely when the rest of the world only saw the performance. And it terrifies them because while you were built for transformation, they were built to avoid it. But now they can't. They are changing whether they like it or not. And your soul is the match that lit the fire. Right now, they are holding back, watching, thinking, planning that first message, that first call, that first casual excuse to be near you again. But you must ask yourself, Scorpio, are you ready to meet them where they are? Because what they bring might not be perfect, but it will be real. Life lesson from part 1. Sometimes the reunion we crave isn't about romance, it's about resolution. When someone returns, it isn't always because they want to pick up where things left off. It might be because your soul gave them permission to grow, and now they're coming back not as the person you lost, but as the person you unknowingly helped create. Part 2, they want you back, but they're afraid of you. Or Scorpio, they want you back, but not in the way you think. This isn't about comfort. This isn't about needing someone to fill the silence. They want you back because you changed something in them and they can't go back to who they were before you appeared. But here's the twist. They're afraid of you, not because you did anything wrong, but because you saw them. You didn't fall for the mask. You didn't buy the illusion. You went deeper. You always do. You saw their broken parts, their hidden wounds, the pieces of themselves they were too scared to confront. and you held it all in silence. And now they remember that every single day. They remember how your eyes never flinched when they told you their secrets. They remember how you didn't need them to be perfect. They remember how you made them feel safe even in their darkest moments. And that's exactly why they pulled away, isn't it? Because no one had ever made them feel that naked before, that vulnerable, that seen. You see, Scorpio people often say they want a deep connection until they're faced with someone who can look right into their soul without saying a word. You didn't just touch their heart, you unlocked a door they've been keeping chained shut since childhood, and now they're standing in front of that door again, holding the key in one hand and their fear in the other. They want to come back, but they're terrified that you'll expect them to be healed, ready, whole. And the truth, they're not. They're still carrying shame, still unsure, still scared you'll look at them and see the same brokenness you saw before, and this time, turn away. But Scorpio, you've changed too. You're not the same person who begged for clarity or who waited by the phone for an answer that never came. You've risen, you've grown in your silence, and you no longer need their return to validate your worth. And they feel that shift. It draws them in even more because now you're not only the soul they can't forget, you're the mirror they're ready to face. So what do? They stall. They linger in your energy. They check your socials. They ask mutual friends about you. They feel your presence when they're alone. And they plan, quietly, hesitantly, because they know when they come back it has to be different. Because this time you won't just welcome them in, you'll hold them to their highest self. And that is the scariest kind of love there is. Life lesson from part 2. The love that sees your soul is the love that changes you, but it's also the love you may run from until you're ready. Sometimes when someone distances themselves from you, it's not rejection, it's preparation. They are becoming the version of themselves they need to be in order to stand beside the version of you they now admire from afar. Part 3. You're not just a person to them, you're their transformation. Scorpio, you may not realize this, but to them, you were never just a chapter in their life. You were the turning point, the before and after. The moment their soul whispered, "You can't go back now," you were their transformation. Not because you tried to fix them, but because your presence made hiding impossible. Scorpio, your energy is like sacred fire. It doesn't destroy without reason. It burns through illusion, and in doing so, it awakens. And that's exactly what you did to them. You didn't push them to change. You didn't demand their growth. You simply stood in your truth, and your very existence exposed everything they'd tried to suppress. That's why they couldn't stay. Because staying with you meant they could no longer lie to themselves. And you didn't even realize the impact you had. You just loved them the only way you know how, deeply, honestly, spiritually. But in that love you gave them a mirror, one that revealed not only who they were, but who they were meant to become. And now they look at their life and feel the gap. Not just the space you used to fill, but the version of themselves that only came alive when they were with you. They're starting to remember how they laughed differently with you because it came from a deeper place. How time moved differently, like the universe paused just for the two of you. How they felt seen not in spite of their flaws, but because of them. Scorpio, you were never temporary. You were catalytic. You didn't just enter their life, you cracked it open. And though they tried to pretend they could carry on without you, something in their world hasn't felt right since you left. Because the truth is, you weren't a lesson. You were the initiation. And whether they're ready to admit it or not, they've already started transforming because of what they experienced with you. This reunion they're planning, it's not just to reconnect. It's a pilgrimage back to the part of themselves that only existed in your light. Life lesson from part 3, the deepest relationships don't just comfort, they catalyze. You may never fully understand how much your presence changes another soul. But trust this. When you live in your truth, you become the mirror that calls others home to theirs. You are not just a memory, Scorpio. You are the awakening they didn't know they were waiting for. Part 4. When Scorpio waits silently, the other soul begins to awaken. Scorpio, there is something powerful about your silence. It's not the kind that punishes, it's the kind that transforms. When you stop chasing, when you go quiet, when you retreat into the sacred space of your inner world, that's when the magic begins. Not because you've given up, but because your silence holds a frequency too loud to ignore. They can feel it now. The absence of your voice, the space where your energy used to live, the quiet pull that echoes louder than any goodbye ever could. You see Scorpio while others scream their worth. You withdraw, and in that withdrawal, you send the most deafening message of all. I'm no longer available for the half version of you. And that's when their soul starts to stir. It's ironic, isn't it? While you're sitting in the dark, doing your healing, minding your own journey, they begin to feel the loss of your light. They wonder, why do I feel off? Why do I keep thinking about them? Why can't I enjoy anything the same way anymore? Because your silence has become the seed of their awakening. That's the thing people don't understand about Scorpios. You don't just walk away, you elevate. And when you elevate, the soul you once danced with feels the shift, as if the music stopped mid-song and now they're left swaying in silence. They thought your silence was the end, but it was only the invitation to go inward. You gave them space to meet their own shadow, to see what you saw before they were ready to see it. And now they begin to understand. Because there is nothing more spiritually jarring than feeling the absence of someone who once held your truth with such grace. And in that silence, Scorpio, they are awakening. Not because you told them to, not because you begged them to come back, but because your energy has always been a compass, and now without it, they're finally realizing they are lost. And so the reunion begins, not in action, but in spiritual alignment. They are moving toward you not out of desperation, but because your silence is guiding them back to their own soul. Life lesson from part 4. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. In a world addicted to noise, your silence becomes a sacred space. And in that space, the truth begins to rise, not only in them, but in you. Healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it sounds exactly like the quiet Scorpio keeps when they've outgrown pretending. Part 5. The tower moment they never told you about. Scorpio, while you were healing in silence, something else was happening behind the scenes, something they never told you. A collapse, an unraveling. A personal earthquake that shook the foundation they thought was stable. This was their tower moment. No, it didn't happen with flashing lights or a dramatic exit. It happened quietly, inwardly. A series of events that forced them to see what they didn't want to face. And you weren't there to witness it, but Scorpio, you were the catalyst. You see, sometimes the universe waits until you've stepped away, until you've let go, until the cords are no longer tangled in your emotion, and then it breaks them open. For them, it may have looked like a sudden breakup with someone they thought was their safe choice, a job loss that stripped them of the identity they clung to, an emotional collapse they couldn't explain to anyone, a moment of looking in the mirror and realizing they no longer recognized themselves. It was divine destruction. And in that space when everything fell, they heard your voice echoing in the silence. Not your literal voice, but the truth you once spoke, the questions you asked, the love you offered without conditions, and the boundaries you eventually placed when it was no longer honored. That's when it hit them. You weren't the problem, you were the mirror. And now that their tower has fallen, they see what you meant, they see what you saw, and most importantly, they finally see themselves. But here's what they won't tell you. They're ashamed they didn't get it before, ashamed they ran when you stood still, ashamed they doubted the only person who ever truly loved them from the soul outward. So they sit in silence, humbled, rebuilding, wondering if it's too late, trying to decide whether reaching out will bring healing or only remind you of the wound. But Scorpio, let me say this. When someone has a tower moment, it's not a punishment. It's an awakening. And sometimes the most profound reunions are born not from longing, but from the wreckage of the self that needed to die in order for real love to live. Life lesson from part 5. Not all storms come to destroy, some come to clear the path. When someone disappears, don't assume they've forgotten you. Sometimes they're simply being broken apart by the very truth your love illuminated. Trust the process, Scorpio. Because while you were evolving in the light, they were breaking in the dark, and both were necessary for the sacred reunion that's unfolding. Part 6. A soul between two worlds. Scorpio. They're not fully gone, but they're not quite here either. They're somewhere in between, suspended in a space where the past still pulls and the future feels uncertain. They are a soul between two worlds. One world is safe, predictable. It's where they know how to function even if it means living half asleep. It's the version of life that makes sense to everyone else, the job, the routine, the relationships that ask for less. But then there's the other world, the world they tasted with you, the one that woke them up, the world that challenged everything they thought they understood about love, purpose, and identity. That world is messy, it's vulnerable, it's unpredictable, and it's calling them every day, every night through the energetic thread that still ties them to you. But they're caught between comfort and calling, between pretending and authenticity, between the version of themselves that is acceptable and the version that is free. You can feel it, can't you? You sense their hesitation. You feel them reaching out, then pulling back. You hear their name whispered in your soul only to be followed by silence in your inbox. Scorpio, they're not ghosting you. They're ghosting themselves because to choose you fully, they must let go of an identity that no longer fits. And that process is terrifying. You represent more than just a connection. You represent transformation. And transformation asks for everything. They look at you and they see their truth, but they also see their fear. Because loving you would mean facing their shadow, healing their childhood wounds, speaking their truth even when it shakes, choosing a path not everyone will understand, and they're not sure they're ready. But the pull is undeniable. And so they stay in the middle. They say, let's just be friends, or I need more time. Or worse, they say nothing at all. But don't mistake that stillness for indifference. It is the stillness of someone standing at a spiritual crossroads, of someone who knows they're about to make a decision that will change the course of their life. And you, Scorpio, you don't push. You observe, you wait. You continue growing, knowing that when the time is right, souls either align or dissolve into memory. But if this is truly your divine counterpart, they won't stay between worlds forever. At some point, they must choose. And when they do, the world they choose will say everything about who they've become. Life lesson from part 6, every soul must walk through the in-between. It is the sacred space where truth reveals itself. You cannot force someone to awaken, Scorpio. You can only be the anchor of truth that shows them what's possible when they do. Stand firm, trust the gravity of your connection, and know this, even in hesitation, their soul hears the call. Part 7. Scorpio's obsession, or Scorpio's knowing. Scorpio. How many times have you asked yourself, am I obsessed? Or do I just know something others can't see? Let's be clear. When you care, you don't just think about someone. You feel them, dream them, carry them inside your chest like a second heartbeat. And that energy, that psychic intensity, it's often mistaken for obsession. But here's the truth. What the world calls obsession, a Scorpio often experiences as soul recognition. Because your sign isn't ruled by logic, it's ruled by Pluto, the underworld, the unseen, the soul-deep truths that can't be explained with surface-level words. So when you feel this person, when you know they're about to message you before they do, when you sense their sadness through a screen, when you wake up from dreams that feel like memories, that's not fantasy, that's your gift. You see what they won't admit. You feel what they're still running from. You know when the energetic tide is shifting even if nothing has changed on the outside. But here's where it gets complicated. When that intuition meets delay, when your knowing doesn't align with their action, it begins to ache. It festers. It makes you question yourself. Am I crazy? Am I holding on too tightly? Why can't I just let go? And that's when your gift becomes your burden. Because Scorpio, you're wired to feel everything. And when someone you love is avoiding their own truth, that avoidance echoes through your system like static. It's not that you're obsessed, it's that you're connected. But that connection needs grounding, or it will start to consume you. And you know this, don't you? That's why you've pulled back. That's why you've stopped reaching out. That's why you've tried to silence the part of you that still checks your phone at 2 a.m., hoping. But no matter how hard you try, the pull remains. Because it's not just emotional, it's energetic. It's ancestral, it's karmic. And no matter how far they run, you feel them. So what now? You don't chase, you don't beg, you observe. Because Scorpio doesn't just want someone, they call them through vibration, through frequency, through the knowing that what is meant cannot be unmade. You're not crazy, you're not weak, you're not stuck in some fantasy. You just know what the other person hasn't yet admitted. This isn't over. And even if you walk away with grace, your soul is still holding the light at the edge of the tunnel, waiting for them to return to themselves and to you. Life lesson from part 7, there's a sacred difference between obsession and intuitive knowing. When your heart feels a truth your eyes can't yet see, don't shame it, honor it. But also know when to ground your energy so that your gift doesn't become your cage. Trust the connection, but trust your peace more. Part 8, they're watching you rise and it terrifies them. Scorpio, you may think they've moved on, that they've forgotten, that your absence has faded into background noise. But let me tell you something, they'll never say out loud. They're watching you, silently, consistently, and with more intensity than you'd believe. Every post you make, every accomplishment you don't brag about, but still radiate, every picture that shows you glowing in your own rebirth, they see it, they feel it, they study it. And it terrifies them, not because they don't want you to rise, but because they didn't think you'd rise without them. You see, Scorpio, they expected your silence to mean stagnation. They expected your retreat to be a form of collapse. But instead, you did what only a Scorpio can do. You transformed in the dark. And now your energy is different. You walk differently. You speak with more certainty. You smile without needing validation. You're no longer waiting, you're choosing. And that shift, it sends a shockwave through their spirit. Because they always thought they had time. Time to stall. Time to come back when they were ready. Time to keep you in limbo while they figured themselves out. But now they realize you've stopped orbiting around them. You are no longer the one they left behind. You are the one they're now chasing, even if only in their mind. And that chase, it's humbling, it's unsettling, it's confronting. Because while they were busy avoiding growth, you became the person they couldn't even imagine themselves deserving of. They watch you now and wonder, would Scorpio even want me anymore? Do I have anything to offer someone who's already risen? What if I come back and they've outgrown the version of me I haven't even upgraded yet? That's the paradox, Scorpio. You rising is exactly what pulls them in and what pushes them into their deepest insecurity. Because your glow doesn't just shine, it reflects. And now they're being forced to see all the ways they haven't shown up, all the times they chose fear over honesty, all the parts of themselves that still feel small in the presence of your wholeness. But don't dim your light to make them comfortable. Because this version of you, the one who rose from your own ashes, isn't just powerful, it's irresistible. And if this is truly your person, they won't just watch you rise, they'll rise to meet you. Life lesson from part 8, when you rise in your power, the people who once feared your depth will either meet you at your new frequency or watch you from below. Never shrink to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. Your evolution isn't an invitation for their validation, it's a mirror of what's possible for them too. Shine anyway. Scorpio. Part 9, the secret that broke them. Scorpio, there's something they've never admitted, not to you, not to anyone, maybe not even to themselves, but it's there lingering like smoke from a fire they thought had gone out, a secret. And this secret, it's the very thing that broke them. They've worn a mask so well for so long they nearly believed it was their face. They convinced the world, maybe even tried to convince you that they were fine, that they were in control, that what happened between you two was just timing or confusion or bad luck. But deep down, they know the truth. They sabotaged something sacred. They ran from the one person who actually saw them. They chose fear over connection, control over surrender, comfort over growth. And it broke them in a way no one could see. Because it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a public collapse. It was quiet. It was spiritual. It was internal erosion. You see, Scorpio, what they never told you is that they still hear your words in the silence. They still feel your presence when they wake at 3 a.m., not knowing why. They still catch themselves looking for you in crowds, in songs, in strangers' eyes. But the secret they've been carrying isn't just that they miss you. It's that they weren't ready for the kind of love you offered. They couldn't hold it. Not because they didn't want to, but because no one ever taught them how. They mistook depth for danger. They confused intimacy with exposure. They thought love meant losing control. So they buried it, buried you, buried the part of themselves that felt too much when you were near. And for a while, they believed they could move on. But Scorpio, love like yours doesn't just disappear. It plants itself in the soul. And the more they tried to bury it, the deeper it grew. Until now they're haunted by it. Not because you cursed them, but because they finally realized the greatest thing they ever had was the one thing they didn't know how to hold. And that realization, it broke them, not into pieces, but into truth. And sometimes truth is the most shattering thing of all. Life lesson from part 9. Some people don't lose you when they walk away, they lose themselves. When someone runs from love, it's rarely about you. It's about the wounds within them that feel unworthy of being seen. Your job isn't to rescue them from that truth. It's to stand in yours and let your love speak louder than their fear ever could. Part 10. A message. They'll send before it's too late. Scorpio, they've rehearsed it in their head 100 times. The words, the tone, the exact moment they'll hit send. They've even opened the message box more than once, fingers trembling, mind spinning, heart pounding. But they haven't sent it, not yet, because this message isn't casual. It's not a meme or a hey, how are you? It's not a breadcrumb, Scorpio. It's a confession. And they know once it's sent, there's no going back. No more pretending, no more safe distance, no more hiding behind time excuses or silence. Because this message is everything they couldn't say before. They want to tell you, I wasn't ready back then, but I've never stopped thinking about you. You were right about all of it. I sabotaged it because I was scared, not because I didn't care. I still love you. I never stopped. And the truth is, they've typed it, deleted it, typed it again, saved it in their notes, dreamed about your reply. But something keeps stopping them. What if you've moved on? What if they're too late? What if your silence means closure? They don't realize that your silence has been listening. You've known this message was coming, not through words, but through energy. Because Scorpio doesn't need a text to know a soul is circling back. You've felt the pull, the shifts, the signs, and now the pressure is building. The moment is getting closer, and they feel it too. Why now? Because they sense the timeline narrowing. They feel something closing a window, a door, a soul contract that demands clarity before it dissolves. The universe is whispering, if you don't speak now, you may never get the chance again. So they're gathering their courage, word by word, emotion by emotion, truth by trembling truth. And when they finally send it, it won't just be a message. It will be an initiation, the first step back toward the very love they thought they lost, and the version of themselves they can only be in your presence. Scorpio, when that message comes, don't look at the time it took. Look at the weight it carries. Because not every apology is written in sorry. Sometimes it's written in vulnerability, finally allowed to breathe. Life lesson from part 10. Some of the most important messages in our lives aren't delivered with perfect timing, they're delivered with truth. When someone reaches out after silence, don't listen to the delay, listen to the courage it took to cross the distance. Whether you respond or not, know this. Your energy inspired a reckoning, and your light made them brave enough to speak. Part 11. The return, but not how you expect. Scorpio, you've imagined their return, haven't you? Maybe it was dramatic. A knock at your door. A phone call out of nowhere, a message so raw it made your breath catch. You felt it coming. But when it happens, it won't be how you pictured it. Because this return isn't wrapped in grand gestures or perfect timing, it's messy, awkward, human. It may come through a casual comment on your post, a mutual friend saying, "Guess who asked about you?" or a sudden appearance in your dreams. Again, and maybe you'll see their name light up your screen, and your heart will do that thing, that silent gasp, that ancient recognition. But the words they use, they'll be simple. "Hey, I was just thinking about you. I know it's been a while." No fireworks, no orchestral apology. But behind those few words, a storm of emotion, regret, hope, fear, the quiet plea, "Please let me still be allowed into your world." You'll notice it, the hesitation. Their energy will feel careful, even cautious. Because they know this isn't the same Scorpio they left behind. You've changed, you've evolved, you've built a life that doesn't revolve around waiting. And they're stepping into a reality where you now hold the power. And that scares them, but it also draws them in. They're returning not just for connection, but for redemption. They don't want to just be seen, they want to be chosen. And not out of nostalgia, but out of new alignment. Still, Scorpio, there's a test here. Will you let the past replay, or will you let this return become something entirely new? Because this time, it's not about passion alone, it's about truth, mutual growth, depth without destruction. And maybe, just maybe, their return isn't the ending of your story, it's the real beginning. But only if they come back with more than words, only if they show up with actions that match the depth you've always offered. So when the return arrives, breathe. Don't rush. Don't fold. Observe. Because when someone returns to Scorpio, they're not just asking for another chance at you, they're asking for a second chance at themselves. Life lesson from part 11. Not every return is a reunion. Sometimes it's a reckoning. When someone from your past reappears, don't look at what they say, look at who they've become. Let your heart stay open, but let your wisdom decide, because you're not where they left you, Scorpio. And that's exactly why they've come back. Part 12. If you let go, they'll come running. Scorpio, you've held on longer than most ever could, longer than logic advised, longer than your friends understood, longer than your pride wanted. Because when you love, you don't just feel affection, you bind. On a soul level, on a cosmic frequency, you tether hearts through lifetimes. But now the universe is whispering something else. Let go. Not in bitterness, not in anger, not in defeat, but in power. Because Scorpio, when you release the grip of expectation, you don't lose the connection, you liberate it. You give it space to breathe, to evolve, to return rightly or to exit cleanly. And here's what they don't see coming. When you let go, they will feel it. They'll feel the energetic thread loosen. They'll feel the room grow colder without your presence warming their aura. They'll feel your psychic gaze disappear from the back of their thoughts. They'll feel the echo of you fading, and it will awaken something primal in them, something spiritual, something urgent. Because as long as you were holding the torch, they thought they had time, but now Now the light is dimming, and in the dark they'll begin to remember what your light meant. That's when the panic sets in. That's when the mask cracks. That's when they realize you weren't just waiting, you were choosing. And now you're choosing something else. Your peace, your growth, your joy, yourself. And that's when they come running. Not because you begged, not because you chased, but because you finally detached with love. Because you finally said, I trust the universe more than I trust this fear. And in doing so, you triggered the very transformation they have been avoiding. They come running not because you needed them, but because they now know what it feels like to live without your frequency anchoring their soul. And Scorpio, that's the real power you've always had. You don't chase, you call. And when your spirit steps back, the whole world feels it. Life lesson from part 12. Letting go is not surrender, it's sovereignty. When you release someone in love without bitterness, you invite only what is meant for you to return. You shift from holding to magnetizing. Because true power isn't in clinging, it's in trusting that if it's real, it will always find its way back. Part 13. Scorpio's final test. Trusting without chasing. Scorpio, you've done the work. You've felt every sting, held every silence, and walked through emotional fire more times than you can count. Now the universe presents you with your final test in this connection. Can you trust without chasing? Because trusting doesn't mean hoping blindly, and it doesn't mean waiting in silence while your heart breaks in slow motion. No. Trusting in the Scorpio way means holding your vibration even when theirs flickers, remaining still even when they pull away, knowing your worth even when they doubt theirs, choosing self-respect over temporary relief. This is not about playing games, it's about knowing the difference between attachment and alignment. Attachment clings, fears, obsesses. Alignment allows, observes, honors. You feel this connection not just in your heart but in your bones. You know they are coming closer, but not because you chase, because you've become still enough to let them hear the call of their own soul. This is your Scorpio mastery, to feel the pull and still not pursue, to see the signs and still not demand, to sense their energy rushing toward you and still not reach. Because the old you, the one who overgave, who waited, who burned silently, that version is gone. Now you understand that if someone is meant for you, they will rise to meet you. And if they can't, you won't lower yourself to pull them from the shallow end. This isn't coldness, this is evolution. This is honoring the divine within you and allowing them to awaken to their own without interference. Let them rise, let them struggle. Let them feel the ache of not having you close enough to numb their confusion, because that ache will lead them to clarity, and that clarity will lead them home, not to your doorstep, but to your frequency, to the place in your energy field that still holds the door open, but only for those who knock with truth. Life lesson from part 13. Trust is not passive. It is a fierce form of surrender. To trust without chasing means you've learned the soul's greatest lesson. You do not need to run after what is already written in your destiny. Instead, you become the lighthouse still radiant and impossible to ignore. Those meant for your shore will find you in their own time. Part 14. The reunion that alters your fate. Scorpio, not all reunions are created equal. Some bring closure, some reopen wounds, but a few, the rare soul-ordained ones, alter the course of your destiny. And what's coming toward you is not just a return, it's a recalibration of your entire path. This isn't about picking up where you left off. That timeline has already burned. This is about something newborn from what you both had to lose to evolve. You've both walked your own deserts. You've both faced shadows, mirrors, silence. And now, the path bends back not in nostalgia, but in divine alignment. But here's the secret. This reunion doesn't look like the fantasy. It looks like truth. It feels raw. It tastes like something you prayed for and feared, because real love, spiritual love, isn't comfortable. It's clarifying. It exposes what's unhealed and calls both souls to rise. So when they show up, and they will pay attention not to their words but to their presence. Do they speak from their wound or their wisdom? Are they ready to build, not just reconnect? Are they owning the silence, the mistakes, the timing? And you, Scorpio, will you receive them with old wounds or with new discernment? Because fate may bring someone back to your door, but it's your evolved self who decides if they get to stay. This is where karmic cycles end, or finally evolve. And if they've done the work, if they show up not to possess you but to partner with you, then this reunion won't just change your love life. It will shift your timeline. You'll feel it. A soft click in your spirit, a sigh your soul exhales when the lesson becomes the launch, a knowing that all the pain had a purpose. You are not who you were. They are not who they were. And the love that returns now, it's not the same story. It's the rebirth of the truth that never died. Life lesson from part 14. True reunions aren't about repeating the past. They're about realigning with your purpose. When someone returns with healed hands, don't reach for what was, reach for what's now possible. Because the most powerful love stories aren't written in one chapter. They're rewritten through transformation. Part 15. The lesson, what this connection was always about. Scorpio, after everything, the silence, the longing, the pull, the return, you may be asking, why? Why did this connection come into your life? Why couldn't you let it go? Why did it shake you, change you, haunt you? The answer is simple, and yet soul deep. This wasn't about romance. It was about remembrance. This connection entered your life to awaken something ancient within you, not to complete you, but to reveal you. They were a mirror, a messenger, a storm disguised as a soulmate, not to destroy, but to rebuild the parts of you that had forgotten their own power. You loved them with the kind of depth that only Scorpio can give, and in return, they showed you the cracks in your foundations, the wounds you still carried, the trust you were still learning to give to yourself. And perhaps you did the same for them, because the greatest spiritual connections don't come to make life easier. They come to make it realer, deeper, rawer. They come to test your boundaries, to teach you patience, to show you how much you're willing to choose yourself even when love is calling from the other side of the wound. And now you know what this was all for, to teach you how to feel deeply without losing yourself, to love fully without chasing, to release without resentment, to walk away if needed, not in bitterness, but in truth. Whether this reunion becomes a new beginning or simply the final bow before both souls journey onward, you have already received the gift. Because Scorpio, this connection cracked you open, but in that cracking, your soul came pouring out. And what a beautiful thing it is to be broken wide open, only to discover that everything you were looking for in them was waiting for you inside yourself. Final life lesson from part 15. The most profound connections are not meant to rescue you, they're meant to resurrect you. You were never meant to stay small, silent, or unsure. This love, no matter how chaotic or delayed, reminded you of your power. And now you walk forward not just with memory, but with mastery. Conclusion, final reflection, and soul wisdom. Scorpio, you didn't imagine it, you didn't exaggerate it, you didn't love too deeply. You felt a real soul contract, and it changed everything. This connection wasn't an accident, it was sacred architecture. You were chosen to awaken something in this person, and they in turn awakened something fierce, ancient, and unforgettable in you. But the deepest truth, you were never waiting for them. You were always waiting for yourself, for your healing, for your peace, for your rise. And now you've arrived. Whether they return in love, in friendship, in silence, or in memory, you're whole. This journey was never about chasing a future. It was about remembering your power in the present. So let the reunion come if it's meant. Let the message arrive if it's true. Let the energy return if it's aligned. But you, Scorpio, you walk forward either way, with your spine straight, with your soul intact, with your intuition sharp, and your heart soft. Because the reunion you've always longed for was with your own divine self. And now you're home. Call to action. For your audience, if this message stirred something in your soul, if you felt seen, validated, or cracked open in a way you can't fully explain, then I invite you to take the next step on your journey. Subscribe to the Path to Buddha Wisdom, where we don't just read stars, we translate soul contracts where every Scorpio journey is treated as sacred, and your evolution is always honored. Leave a comment below. Tell me what part of this message spoke to your truth. You never know, your story might help someone else feel less alone. Until next time, Scorpio, stay powerful, stay mystical, and never apologize for the depth of your love. Because you weren't born to float on the surface, you were born to rise from the bottom, from the fire, from the silence into your full, unshakable truth.